The second public hearing is item number 15, adopt ordinance amending Title 17 to the Temecula Municipal Code pertaining to the accessory dwelling units. Do any of my colleagues have any questions?
I do, actually.
Yes.
So Matt, 800 square feet minimum, and did it say anything about bathroom facilities, kitchens, running water, or anything like that?
So there's both an ADU, which would be a separate single family home, 1,200 square feet. And yes, it would include living, sleeping, sanitation facilities.
Okay.
And cooking facilities.
But it's spelled out, so it doesn't leave any. Okay, good.
Right.
Councilmember Nagar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for the city attorney, and maybe Matt, part of you may want to answer it as well. But Mr. City Attorney, so this is being imposed on us via Sacramento, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so our choices are limited here. We're in essence amending our code because we have to come in conformance to their mandate, their bills, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How do they get around, I guess you might call it the land use contract that HOAs have made with their residents? Those covenants, how do they just eliminate those and override them?
Well, this isn't the first time that the legislature has required that HOAs recognize certain land use uses that the legislature wants. The most clear example is group homes. The legislature has for many, many years said HOAs cannot prohibit certain group homes that comply with state law. So this is not the first time that's occurred. And essentially the argument is that the compelling need for housing is sufficient to make those impositions on what would otherwise be a private transaction regulating housing within a particular homeowners group.
Thank you. So, and whether you, Peter, or you, Matt, take this question. So it appears that the exemptions for a parking space, when you look at them, it pretty much makes an accommodation for no parking space. It really gets you to a point where there's really no excuse to deny this because of parking. But whether or not somebody uses those, those exemptions and there becomes a parking problem, what do we do? It's not likely somebody's going to walk a half a mile to a bus stop. We know that. We know that the average distance somebody's going to walk to a bus stop, studies have been done on this ad infinitum. Okay, we can, Mr. Swank with RTA, I'm sure you can get that information. This is not old news. People will walk maybe an eighth of a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile, but they're not going to walk a half a mile. So anyway, what do we do in a typical neighborhood? Paloma del Sol, Rancho del Sol, Paseo del Sol, where these units get built eventually and there's no parking. Are we just out of luck?
We've asked ourselves that same question. The planning department, as we've gone through these bills and updated our ordinance, we have a lot of questions with regard to that. The only instance where we can require parking is with a detached accessory dwelling unit. We can require one parking spot.
And yeah, and I heard that. Where is that parking spot supposed to be in a single family neighborhood? Where are you supposed to get it? Are you supposed to put it on your land somewhere?
Yeah, anywhere on the lot, and it can be within setbacks.
Okay. And how big does a parking space have to be?
Typically, a parking space is 9 by 18.
Okay.
So they'd widen the driveway, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I did have a question too. I noticed in the state laws that 1,200 square feet was allowable, but then you kept saying 800 square feet. So what detached is allowable? What's the number?
So the differentiation with the 800 square feet was for the building permit only process. So if someone comes in with building plans, that are 800 square feet or less, they're eligible for the building permit only. So that means it doesn't even come to the planning department. Although we do a courtesy review to look at the architecture, but basically they just submit for a building permit. If it's above the 800 up to 1200, then there's a planning application that's required.
Okay. All right. Mr. Nagar.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up. How does this relate to, let's say, a front or side yard setback? We have a driveway, adjacent to the driveway is a front yard. I can't widen the driveway in a traditional way, so I encroach into the front yard. Is that now allowed?
Well, a single family home is required to have 2 covered spaces. So all single family homes have a 20 by 20 garage. Hopefully the depth of that garage would allow parking in front of the garage door for the accessory dwelling unit in the back. I know
Okay.
that.
But can you encroach into a front yard? Can you encroach into a front yard or a side yard?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So you can, it's like tantamount to parking on your front lawn.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well,
Mr. Mayor,
and
one
I
more
was just
point
thinking,
here.
I was thinking also that if you did a garage conversion, you're taking away those 2 covered parking spaces.
That's what I was gonna say.
Right. So you basically have to park in the front yard.
Yes, and with a garage conversion, we're not allowed to require replacement parking.
Wow. Thank you, State of California.
I thought of everything.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that staff report. Do my colleagues have any questions? A lot of head shaking. So I will now go ahead and open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, do we have any comments?
We do not, Mr. Mayor. You are welcome to go ahead and close the public hearing. And for the record, I will note that the previous action item on the ordinance reading will be corrected to reflect as Matt Peters read it into the record during the presentation. And I will go ahead and read the current ordinance into the record on behalf of the city attorney. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Temecula amending Title 17 of the Temecula Municipal Code to revise regulations to conform with the Density Bonus Law, California Government Code Section 65915, and finding the ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay, this public hearing is closed. And Mayor, Mr. Nagard, I'm
Thank
used
you.
to saying Mayor Nagard. All
No,
right, go ahead.
So just a comment, again, Sacramento imposing itself on all of our local land use decisions. And, you know, it's very difficult because most of our community will not know of this until it begins to happen. And it's hard to just get the word out. I don't know that this item and the previous item will happen right away, but it's just very sad. I understand what Sacramento's trying to do, and there's many ways to do it, but destroying a city by taking over our zoning is not the way to do it.
All right. So can I get a motion, please?
Reluctantly so moved.